everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by the Gemma Jade channel to do this live stream with us. And happy National Paranormal Day, or happy Paranormal Day. Thank you guys so much for coming in and hanging out with us tonight. We're going to talk about our favorite hauntings. I just want to say hi to everyone first, and let's start with the top. David Stewart first. Ann Palmer, hello. Grey Wolf Paranormal, what's for supper? Jackie, good day. Creepy Unsolved, hey guys. Chris Jarvis, Cookie. Lee Thompson, you're going to have to explain that one. I'm confused. After listening for a while, I have learned that Stemma believe in everything but themselves. LOL, much love. Much love right back to you, Lee. But I definitely believe in myself these days, and it's almost all thanks to you guys. Gary Manley, howdy. Dragons ZW, I usually call you Dragons W. You still have to tell me which one it is. Hello, Rick Brab, how you doing? Laura Stevens. And I think I have everybody. If I forgot someone, I apologize. I'm really not good at this. This is Steve's job. Looking down at my computer. And speaking of Steve, here he is.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here. National Paranormal Day. Every day's Paranormal Day for us, but it's a special day today. And not only is it National Paranormal Day, Gemma, I can't even say her name right.
Oh, Marie, the mermaid.
Gemma had a little special occasion today. Gemma, tell them what happened today.
What happened today? Oh, I actually signed my contract on Paranormal Day. How awesome is that? So I am officially part of the Beyond the Fray family.
Yep.
Yay!
In the stable, there's a bunch of us in there. That's my publisher, Rick, Ken Gerhardt, Kenny Irish, Kitsy Duncan. There's several fine authors over there. You're in good company, that's for sure. I'm having to move around here. I forgot you've got a watermark there, and I've got a tiny U in my beard.
Come on, that's cute. It's like a little bird who just nests there.
Yeah, just you can build a nest there, and it's the pixie version of you, the Fae version of Gemma Jade.
That's why I did that one. I thought it looked really cute. You know what? I got to put my hair up because it's really humid. I just wrote it in the chat. It's super humid here in Jersey. It's pouring rain where I live, but I have to have my windows open, so I hope you guys can't hear the storm too much. And Jose Medina, thank you. Thank you, Kathy Miller. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I am, like I keep saying, super excited, super grateful, definitely. I feel really blessed to have found this platform and to have found something I can literally do for a living. Maybe not right now financially, but I will get there.
It's coming. It's coming.
I will get there where I can do this for a living. And for me, that's absolutely amazing. As someone who doesn't like leaving the house, as someone who's very socially awkward, it's good for me to be able to work from home doing something that I feel is meaningful with the true crime work that I do. And then the paranormal, which is fun and awesome and, my biggest interest. So really, really feel grateful for that. So tonight we are going to be talking about, thank you so much, everyone. And that's what I mean. You guys are so sweet. The Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hello. And yeah, so we're going to be talking tonight about our favorite hauntings. And before we go over them, Steve, quick, just tell me, what did you choose to talk about tonight?
I chose the Bell Witch haunting. That's not exactly from the area in Tennessee where I'm from. That's more Middle Tennessee. It's down near Nashville and Adams. But that's locally, it was just so well known, and it was a part of my childhood growing up. We had our own local version of Bloody Mary that was a Bell Witch thing. You had to go in the bathroom and turn the lights out and say, I don't believe in the Bell Witch. I don't believe in the Bell Witch. I don't believe in the Bell Witch. And then she would reach out of the mirror and scratch you. I was at a kid's party one time. I was a kid too. And one of the girls went in the bathroom and did it. She came back out and she had scratches on her face. And of course she did it herself, but everybody was like, oh my God, it's real. And then there was also a legend that the Bell Witch book, the hardback one at the main library, it was always checked out. You could never find it. And the story that went around was that some guy had been reading it in his bed and died while reading it, and laid there for weeks before they found him, and the book was still there, open on his chest. So again, that was a grade school rumor, probably not true. It was just a popular book, I think, but it was the stuff of childhood legends and playground stories and little games like the Bloody Mary variant there. So stuck with me.
Susan Woodcarver, welcome. And that's awesome. You're a 3-book author. I definitely have. Steve has definitely, he said from the beginning, I asked him if he would mentor me and kind of take me under his wing. And as you guys can see, he definitely had. These are things beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, again, where I was 4 years ago to now, it's just, it's literally insane. I mean, what a story of redemption, you know?
And as fast and as well as you write, the sky's the limit. This is my 5th book, and it's taken me a while, but she's already 5,000 words into this first. Well, no, that's the documentary that you're working on. I don't know.
I'm writing for Bill.
Yeah, we're doing a documentary on the smiley face killers, so look for that soon. She's probably a quarter of the way through that.
I'm about a quarter of the way in. Yeah, it should be done within the next week or two. You know, it's something I've always had in the background. Like, I'll start researching things, and then I'll move on to something else to put out something shorter, and then go back to it. I've had all of this information, tons and tons of info on the young men and being, you know, going missing after a night of drinking and being found in water. And I don't personally subscribe to the smiley faced killer theory. I think it's a great theory. I think it should be discussed and looked at. But from what I've researched so far, I don't really believe in it. But I am absolutely just enthralled and just so incredibly interested and fascinated by whatever phenomenon it is that is causing these young men to have this happen. So it's really about just learning more about the smiley face killer angle, more than it is learning information about the cases and the investigations and all of those kinds of things. So it did come pretty easily to me, but you know, I love to write anyway. So Pam Smith, welcome in. And I just want to thank you for your comment earlier. Pam said I was in her head when she got aggravated at the store. And she remembered me saying to be kind, it doesn't cost anything. And things like that really touch my heart because, you know, I got to practice what I preach. And, you know, I lose my temper quickly with certain people. But for the most part, I'm pretty calm. And I know it's not easy. Believe me, every time I go into the dollar store in the past, like, 3 or 4 times, I've almost gotten into a fist fight with some old lady. I mean, it just happens, you know. But Pam, that really touched me, and I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you. So I'm going to get started and talk a little bit about the Hinsdale House, and then I'm going to let Steve take us away with the Bell Witch. So these aren't really deep dives. I'm just going to give you some cursory information to what I think right now, with everything I'm doing, what I think is the most interesting haunting to me. And I think it's one of the most interesting for me, and like probably in my top 5, maybe at number like, you know, between 1 and 3, I don't know. So the Hinsdale House, and I got this from Mysterious Universe. I get like almost everything from there because they're just an amazing site. Everyone was saying, you know, nobody knows how the Hinsdale House became haunted. And then of course, these people, they definitely know. So I'm going to kind of skim, and if you guys, you know, I'm not looking at the chat right now. So if you're talking to me, just wait until I'm done so I can see what you're actually saying. Otherwise, all right, let's go. Happy Paranormal Day, everybody, and thank you again so much for joining us. So we know that phenomenon of haunted houses go way, way back to as far as anyone can remember, right? We're usually introduced, some people are introduced to horror movies and horror culture from a very young age. I was, in true crime culture. So what is widely said to be one of the most intensely haunted houses in the United States is a very peaceful and serene scene at first glance. Located atop a hill in a quaint rural area of Hinsdale in western New York, the stately century-old farmhouse known as the Hinsdale House was built in the mid-1800s, after which it apparently became an inn for some time before becoming a private residence. The place is purportedly steeped in some grim history from way back, according to the current owner of the farmhouse, paranormal researcher Daniel Clays, co-founder of Greater West New York Paranormal Society, who wrote a whole book about it called Hinsdale House, An American Haunting. And according to Clays, the house's days as a remote stagecoach stop and inn were tainted with heinous murders carried out there, of which he has written, quote, That inn was what came to be called the Hinsdale House. Two names for the owners, Ian and Richard. Because record keeping at the time was not as meticulous as it has grown to be today, the last name of these two very evil brothers remains unknown or in dispute. Ian and Richard were sexual assaultists and thieves, using the Hinsdale House as a spider web to attract their victims. The very worst thing a traveler could let these two miscreants see was that they were wealthy. A beautiful necklace, an expensive watch, could easily be a traveler's death warrant. Seeing those items on a guest signaled to these brothers that this was a person to rob, perhaps sexually assault, and drag to a tree for hanging. That's the end of the quote. The deaths at the house supposedly didn't stop there, with many others allegedly happening on the premises in its early days. It has been said that the house was prone to all manner of freak accidents and deaths in the coming decades, and by 1942 it was supposedly known as a somewhat cursed place. An unusual number of accidental deaths and events of serious injury are also associated with the Hinsdale House, including the untimely and tragic death of a 16-year-old Alfred Warren, who, while helping his father cut down a branch on the site in 1942, was struck in the head when the buzzsaw they were using to complete the task snagged, hurling the saw with immense force into his head, causing traumatic injury that snuffed out his life 3 hours later in a nearby hospital. The little boy Alfred makes frequent visits to Alfred frequently makes his eternally youthful presence known to those who stay a while in the home, and a look at a simple number of people who have died on the property of unnatural causes over the course of its existence as a non-native location is statistically out of proportion to the standard statistical rate of danger on rural land. I can go on and on about, all of the injuries and all of that, but in the interest of saving time, because there's one part of the Hinsdale House haunting that is what I'm interested in and fascinated by. There's also the legend of an eerie tree nearby, which is claimed to have been a place where criminals were hanged and which is ominously dubbed the Hanging Tree or the Tree of Despair, as well as a story of a pond where there have been drownings and tales of numerous unmarked graves in the hills. Other tales speak of bloody massacres carried out here during the time of the Native Americans, and the whole area has this sinister vibe. The house would change hands through a procession of owners, including Irish immigrant Michael McMahon in 1861, whose family owned it over several generations until 71, and it is in the 70s that the spooky stories of the Hinsdale House would really take off. Clara and Phil Dandy moved in the 1970s, and here's where the tales of hauntings would truly capture the public's imagination and not just people interested in this. When the Dandy family moved in, they were sure that this was the house of their dreams, but it very quickly would prove to be nothing but a nightmare. As soon as they moved in, they would allegedly be plagued by all manner of strange occurrences, at first involving mostly minor poltergeist activity, such as moving objects or lights turning on and off, but swiftly graduating to something more sinister. Objects would fly off the shelves, knives would sail across the room to embed themselves within the walls, and the family's two young children would wake up with bruises and scratches upon their bodies. They would sometimes report that they could hear chanting from the forest, and that's a huge thing about this house. There's always some kind of chanting going on. They hear screeching coming from the forest. They are frequently seeing shadow people, which sometimes seemed less than human, and they actually saw demonic entities that they believed to be demonic, shadow people walking all around the halls into their house, all in their bedrooms. It got out of control pretty fast, and before long, the terrified family was calling on someone to come and help them out. In 1974, they desperately called a priest by the name of Father Alphonsus. He was from St. Bonaventura University, who, depending on the version of the story, did either a house cleansing or a full-on exorcism. I mean, there's a huge difference there, but okay. Whatever he did, it didn't help. The haunting became more extreme than ever before, with the house apparently quaking and a screaming noise piercing the air, and in the end, Father Alphonsus apparently told the family that the best course of action was to get out of there, and he would supposedly tell them, quote, "Some ground is just bad, no one knows why. Just leave as soon as you can and take only your own things with you. Don't discuss your plans inside the house. This place is just a hole to hell," end quote. The family didn't take long to pack up their things and get moving. It sat derelict and abandoned, and Daniel Clay swept in to buy it. But the thing with the Hinsdale House, and I'm not finding anything about this in the reports, so I'm wondering if I have the wrong house here. Steve, why don't you talk about the Bell Witch while I do just a little bit more research and see if I even have the right house, because the haunting I'm looking for The names sound familiar, but I can't find it anywhere. So maybe it's not the Hinsdale House.
Yeah,
I don't know.
let me go ahead and get in here. And I didn't say hi to anybody yet either. So hello, everybody. I did say hi just when you introduced me. I waved at the camera. But I got all our regulars and then some here. David Stewart, Ann Palmer, Bray Wolf, Paranormal, Jackie. Good day down under. Creepy Unsolved. Good to see you, Dylan. Let's see who else. Chris Jarvis. His trained gerbils. Lee Thompson. Let's see. Dragon CW. Carrie, she made it. And we are there, Carrie. We're on top of it. Dave, let's see, I already said him. Margaret Taylor, don't recognize you, but welcome in. If you've been here before, welcome back. Rick Brab. Maraid the Mermaid. Who else?
Okay, so I had the wrong house, but I'll let Steve go. And I'm wondering, why doesn't any of this sound familiar? Sorry, guys. It was so quick that I had to think up something to research. But the Hinsdale House is really spooky anyway. So sorry, Steve. Go on ahead.
Okay, and let's see. We got Gary Manley. Hello from across the pond there, Gary. And I saw a couple more sneak in here. Susan Woodcarver, always good to see you. Thank you. Laura Stevens.
DC Joey, are you kidding me? What's up, guys? Margaret Taylor.
Jose, good to see you. Jose's like at everything I do at some point or another. Even like on the KPNL stuff, he's there all the time. Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Eric Freeman. I'm anxious for you to be on that show. Jim, I just recorded with him like last week, and I think it's
I can't wait.
It's coming out soon. There's a post on Facebook about it today. You have a lot of fun with Eric, and yeah, he's from that area. He's down in around where the Bell Witch is from.
That's what he said. He said the Bell Witch is in my neck of the woods. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
James Thompson, are you kidding me? DC Joey, Callie Snyder, John Edmonds. I think I'm caught up with everybody. Casey Bowling, good to see you. Glad you made it. Margaret Taylor, I think I already said hi to you. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Call me out on it in the chat. But did you want to pick up back where you left off? Are you ready for me to start in on the Bell Witch?
No, you can go Bell Witch, and I'll just run through this when you're done.
Okay. Like I was mentioning earlier, I grew up in Tennessee, and that's the legend of the Bell Witch is probably one of the most famous pieces of Southern lore. It's a story of a spirit who tormented the Tennessee home over 200 years ago. Now, as the story goes, she may or may not still lurk around Robertson County. She's become an iconic witch, inspiring major motion pictures and attracting the attention of a soon-to-be president back in the day. Even more compelling is that, unlike a lot of other paranormal figures, this story is supported by eyewitness accounts, affidavits, and documents penned by those who were involved in the haunting. The story starts 1804. John Bell and his family settled on 300 acres of land, now known as Adams, Tennessee. It's just outside of Nashville there. The disturbances began over a decade later, beginning in 1817. Started with sounds, standard paranormal fare for the most part, things like pounding on doors, slaps on walls, eerie chain rattling. But before too long, a critter that they couldn't identify showed up. Kind of described as a half dog, half rabbit. Whatever it was, it definitely didn't belong in the area, and they'd never seen anything like it before. And then it went a little farther. The blankets were being pulled from the beds during the night. Family members were scratched and kicked and had their hair pulled. Elizabeth Bell, the daughter of John Bell, also known as Betsy, received the worst of abuse and was slapped and pinched until her body was covered in bruises. John Bell decided at first to keep the strange events quiet, but eventually he confided in a friend, and a committee was formed to investigate these strange happenings. The spirit identified herself as Kate Batts' witch. Now, Kate Batts was a member or a neighbor of the Bells who John had had some bad business dealings with, possibly even an affair, and then he supposedly screwed her over in a land deal, so not really sure. That's kind of murky, but then they just started calling the ghost or the witch Kate. Now, John Bell had 3 sons that had fought under General Andrew Jackson, and he was so intrigued, General Jackson was so intrigued by the story that he insisted on visiting the family. The witch taunted his men and actually held the carriage wheels still, calling them all out as frauds. And then Jackson's entourage eventually were seen running away, headed toward Nashville. Now, Jackson didn't run away, but the men accompanying him did. And Kate, old Kate they call her, she continued to torment the family relentlessly vowing to kill John Bell. When he breathed his last breath in 1820, a vial of what was presumed to be poison was found. This is a quote from the Bell Witch website. John Bell Jr. gave some of it to the cat, which died instantly. Now, I don't know why you would give something strange in a bottle that you found to the cat, but they did, and it killed the cat. This woke up the entity, who exclaimed joyfully in a disembodied voice, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." John Jr. quickly threw the vial into the fireplace, where it burst into a bright bluish flame and shot up the chimney. Now, after the death of John Bell, the witch quieted down a little bit, only returning for predetermined visits. She would let them know what years she would be back to visit the remaining family members. Now, to this day, the area is a hotbed of activity, with people claiming to hear sounds, see candle lights, photograph orbs, ghostly apparitions. There's a light that's been seen up in a tree there. And ultimately, there's no explanation for these events that occurred, and probably never will be. But it is one of the most enduring haunts in Southern history. Now, I've been there. I've been to the Bell Witch Cave. Somebody was asking about that. That's on the property. And there's been things that have happened in the cave as well. Chris Kirby, her and her husband own that property, and she runs the Bell Witch Cave attraction. You can actually go there and tour it. They have a gift shop. They have a restored cabin that's similar to the one that the Bells lived in. But something happened in the cave that her husband won't even talk about. He refused to go down there. And says, that's your business. If you wanna run that, go ahead, and lets her have at it. And on the day that I was there, my daughter and I were the first ones, the only ones there. Nobody came while we were there. At that time, she took us down in the cave, showed us around, and there were things in there then. There were noises and things from inside the cave when we had just entered in, even though it has this huge iron gate that's locked with a chain and a big heavy padlock. And also took some unusual pictures down there. I don't have those on hand, but there were some things that showed up in the pictures that were not in the cave. It was a digital camera, a newfangled device at that time, and sat with Chris, and we looked through those, and she would point out things. She's like, "There's nothing like that down there. I don't know what that is. I don't know where that came from," and things like that. There's also a Cherokee box grave, one single solitary grave inside the cave, and a lot of people conjecture that may be part of the haunting anyway. And it's a pretty expansive cave system that runs throughout the county there. You could go all through different areas of it. That part's not open, but prior, when it was just on somebody's land and wasn't an attraction, there were people that went to different places in it, went miles under there. One guy got stuck, and something unseen pushed him free, and just all kinds of little things like that. And it's right there on the Red River, and there's a waterfall nearby. And a few years ago, there was somebody that was showering, taking a bath there under the waterfall. Said, "Man, I forgot to bring my soap with me. I wish the Bell Witch would send me some soap." And said, just hadn't much more than got it out of his mouth than a bar of soap came over the falls. A brand new bar of soap, unwrapped, unbranded, but there it was. And if you do go and visit, don't take anything. That's another one of the caveats that they tell you when you go through there. She has scrapbooks full of letters from people that have toured that decided just to sneak a little piece of something. And, granted, there are stalagmites and stalactites in there that took thousands of years to form. And if everybody took a little piece of something, there wouldn't be anything left eventually.
That's true. That's true.
But people that have tried to sneak and take something, ultimately it comes back. She gets boxes in the mail all the time, like, "I took this rock from inside the cave. Would you please put it back?"
Weren't we talking about that with Creepy Unsolved when we were talking about that tree or something?
Yeah, the petrified wood.
Yes.
And there's also, she has a lot of photographs that people have sent her where they took pictures and things that didn't show up, or that weren't there that did show up in the photographs. But the most interesting one is a picture of her daughter and her daughter's best friend just outside the entrance of the cave, sitting on the steps, or on the path there to the cave. And around her daughter's neck is what appears to be a boa constrictor. And she's like, "We have no snakes. We've never had any snakes." In fact, my daughter is scared to death of even these little garter snakes that we have out here in the woods. But I've seen the picture, and it's an old school, like Polaroid style. There wasn't any way that you could have faked that or done something to make that up unless she just, put a snake on and haha, I did it. And but if you buy the story that they tell you, there was no snake there, and that just one of many. And they have she sells haunted dolls in the gift shop. Now I can't speak to the veracity of those, how haunted they actually are. Heather Mosier, who sometimes writes for Missing Persons and Mysteries, she bought a couple of them, I think, but I don't know if I haven't heard any reports as to how haunted they are yet. And on the screen there, I have the a historical marker there, and it's one of the few historical markers that you'll ever see that is dedicated to a paranormal event. It is a strange place. You can feel something in the energy there. As far as I know, it's been a while since I've been there, but there was a tree in the front yard there where the family that lives there now have seen several times a light. Chris said it was as bright as the moon, and she thought it was the moon at first, and she was just seeing it through the tree, and then it came up out of the tree and flew across the house. So it's definitely a weird place to go if you're near Nashville or within driving distance or happen to be going through there for whatever reason. Go check it out. You won't be disappointed. There's been several books written about it. There's been several films. I haven't seen all the movies. I can't say how closely they portray the actual legend or not, but it is what it is. But it's worth looking into, and like I said, it's been one of my favorite paranormal happenings, one of my favorite hauntings, if you will, just from childhood. I had a couple books about it back then, one written by a member of the Bell family, and said in the area that I lived in, which was really, I was in East Tennessee. This happened in Middle Tennessee, but it made the rounds there in East Tennessee too. And like I said, the kids' games and the playground stories and things. It was a lot of fun. Just one I'll always remember. One of the first true ghost stories that I ever heard told, probably. And that's my take on
Yeah,
the
and
Bell Witch.
I did not know. I mean, I had, of course, heard of the Bell Witch, but you guys know I came into this but in mainly the true crime community. But I've told you guys I'm trying to not get out of it, but do more on the paranormal side because that interests me more and there's a lot less pain involved. But, there are cases I'm still going to cover of true crime, but like you're seeing this week and last week, it's going to be more paranormal videos with some true crime thrown in instead of the other way around. But I've heard of the Bell Witch, but for some reason it just didn't strike me. So I never really looked into it until you and I talked about it. Some other live stream we were doing. I can't even remember what it was, but we got into the Bell Witch.
I think it was when we were on with Dylan and Sabrina for the Creepy Unsolved that we were
No,
talking.
this was a long time ago.
Okay.
Hey, Aunt Edna, welcome. Welcome anyone else who snuck in whose name I don't see and we didn't say hi to. So what happened there, guys, is I was trying to rush because I overslept and pick one of my favorite hauntings. And I didn't want to do the Amityville house because it's been done, no pun intended, to death. So I very quickly did a search of the parameters of the haunted house I was looking for and came up with the Hinsdale House. But while that definitely is very interesting and creepy, this is actually what I was looking for. And it makes sense. A lot of you probably know the story. It's the real story behind what the Conjuring movies were based on. So what made the Conjuring movies even creepier was the fact that they were based on true stories from the files of famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, everyone pretty much knows who they are. The first two, the Conjuring movies, centered around the Warrens helping those thought to be possessed by demonic entities. The first about a family named the Perones in Rhode Island, and the second, the Hodgson family in Enfield, North London. The Enfield haunting, I kind of believe in it more than I don't. And now the creator of the Conjuring movies. Okay, so this is about the Conjuring 3. But I want to talk to you guys about what it's based on. And of course, I'm so sorry, you guys. Steve, just talk for like 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll go back to the chat here, see what's going on. Let's see. Susan Woodcarver says she's 100% Polish gypsy. Now, that's interesting. My grandmother, who was, I'm not sure exactly where her side of the family came from originally, somewhere Romania, somewhere around that area. She called herself a gypsy witch, self-proclaimed. But they had immigrated over from England. Now, I don't know where they had been before they got to England, other than at some point the family was Romanian. But that side, that my mother's side, that grandma, my maternal grandma, she was a pistol. She was the one that told fortunes, um, read tea leaves, coffee grounds, animal entrails, a little bit of everything. She could make potions and probably cast a few spells, but she was what they call today a kitchen witch, or in Appalachia they're known as granny witches. But that was where really that I got my start in the paranormal, just because, come by it honest, on that side of the family, so they were into the spiritualism movement like around the turn of the last century, the 19 teens and the 1920s. They would regularly hold seances and do table tappings and or table tipping, depending on what you want to call it. So, yeah, she had a superstition for everything and knew every ghost story and every legend about every haint and booger in there. And then when she was little, they lived around the Cades Cove area of the Smokies before it was a national park. So, another reason that I'm fascinated with that area up there, that's when my people landed here from another country. That's where they went to.
I'm almost done, guys.
And let's see who else we got here. Got some other people here, Cherokee, and yeah, I've got some Cherokee in me. Ours is verified. I haven't done the 23 in me and thing, but my dad's mother was half, and she looked it too. Her mother. I've seen pictures of her. There was no mistaking it. My dad had the black hair and the swarthy skin. He died 2 days before his 82nd birthday. My father did, and his hair was coal black, and he had that Native American hair, Cherokee look to him with the nose and everything. Okay, you ready to carry on there?
Wait. Hold on. Sorry.
That's okay. I'll keep looking around.
I was talking to myself.
Arlene
Okay,
Freeberg says she loves men with beards and long hair. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. A woman of the 70s, indeed. Child of the 70s and 80s here. Born in 63. Formative years in the 70s, high school. Graduated in 81. So, all right, continue, Gemma.
Got it. It's called The Devil Made Him Do It case. Arne Johnson and Debbie Glatzel provided firsthand accounts for the version of events depicted in Discovery Channel's A Haunting episode Where Demons Dwell. They didn't believe in demonic activities, especially their father they claimed to be eyewitnesses to demonic possession, and both were adamant in their support of the Warrens' recollection of events. They asserted that paranormal activity began after they went to clean up a rental property they had just acquired. David recollected that an old man appeared, pushing and terrifying him. The couple initially thought David was using the old man as an excuse to avoid cleaning. David was a young boy, but David informed them that the old man had vowed to harm the Glatzels if they moved into the rental home. David's visions of the old man included the man appearing as a demonic beast who muttered Latin and threatened to steal his soul. Although the family allegedly heard strange noises coming from the attic, no one but David ever witnessed the old man. After David experienced night terrors, exhibited strange behavior, and obtained unexplained scratches and bruises constantly, the family called upon the services of a Catholic priest who attempted to bless the house. The terrified family concluded that the house was evil and would no longer continue to rent it. David's visions worsened, occurring in the daytime as well. 12 days after the original incident, the family summoned the self-proclaimed demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren to assist. Lorraine allegedly witnessed a black mist materialize next to David, an apparent indication of a malevolent presence. Debbie and her mother told the Warrens they had seen David being beaten and choked by invisible hands. Debbie, I believe, is David's mother. And that red marks had appeared on his neck after he had been choked by the red hands. David had started to growl, hiss, speak in otherworldly voices, and recite passages from the Bible or Paradise Lost. The Glatzels recounted how each night a family member would remain awake with David as he suffered through spasms and convulsions. After receiving a prognosis of multiple possessions from the Warrens, David was subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms. Lorraine asserts that David levitated, ceased breathing for a time, and even demonstrated the supernatural ability of precognition, specifically in relation to the murder Johnson would later commit. In October of 1980, the Warrens contacted Brookfield police to warn them that the situation in the house was becoming very dangerous. According to eyewitness testimony, Arne Johnson coerced one of the demons purportedly within David to possess him while participating in the exorcism. He was really, really close to David. Actually, Arne was Debbie's boyfriend or fiance, and David was her little brother. And he got really close to David, and he was protective. So he said, like, chances of Johnson's possession, as described by those involved. According to the show, a few days after Johnson egged the demon on during the exorcism, he was attacked rather viciously by the demon, which allegedly took control of his car and forced it into a tree. Fortunately, Johnson was unharmed. After this incident, Johnson returned to the rental property to examine an old well that supposedly housed the demon. I don't know if I would go, like, looking for a demon. I don't know. In both the dramatized version and his own personal account, Johnson recollects that this was his final encounter with the demon while completely lucid, as it was after encountering the demon at the well and making eye contact with it that he became possessed. The Warrens claim to have warned him not to do this. As David's condition continued to worsen, Debbie and Johnson decided it was time to move out of her mother's home. Debbie was hired by Alan Bono, a new resident in Brookfield, as a dog groomer. So Debbie and Arne Johnson began renting an apartment close to her place of employment. And after moving in, Johnson started to exhibit odd behavior that was strikingly similar to David's, causing Debbie to fear that he had become possessed as well. According to Debbie, Johnson would fall into a trance-like state wherein he would growl and hallucinate, but later have no memory of it. So here's the murder. On February 16th, 1981, Johnson called in sick to his job at Right Tree Service and joined Debbie at the kennel where she worked, along with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary. Bono, the couple's landlord and Debbie's employer at the kennel, bought the group lunch at a local bar and proceeded to start heavily drinking. After lunch, the group returned to the kennel. Debbie then took the girls to get pizza, but insisted they return quickly, anticipating some kind of trouble intuitively. When they returned, Bono, intoxicated at this point, became agitated. Everyone left the room at Debbie's urging except Bono, who seized Mary and refused to let go. Johnson headed back to the apartment and ordered Bono to release Mary. Wanda recounted the following events to police. Mary ran for the car as Debbie attempted to mitigate the situation by standing between the two men. Wanda tried in vain to pull Johnson away. Johnson, growling like an animal, then drew a 5-inch, 130-millimeter pocket knife and stabbed Bono repeatedly. Bono died several hours later, and according to Johnson's lawyer, Bono had suffered, quote, 4 or 5 tremendous wounds, end quote, mostly all to his chest, and one that stretched from his stomach to the base of his heart. Johnson was discovered 2 miles or 3 kilometers from the site of the murder and was held at the Bridgeport Correctional Center on a bail of $125,000. This was the first murder in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut, and it happened in 1981. So last of all, the trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson. The trial of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, also known as the Devil Made Me Do It case, is the first known court case in the United States in which the defense sought to prove innocence based upon the defendant's claim of demonic possession and denial of personal responsibility for the crime. On November 24, 1981, in Brookfield, Connecticut, Arne Cheyenne Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter for the killing of his landlord, Alan Bono. According to testimony by the Glaxell family, 11-year-old David Glaxell had allegedly played host to a demon, and after witnessing a number of increasingly ominous occurrences involving David, the family, exhausted and terrified, decided to enlist the aid of self-described demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren in a last-ditch effort to, quote, cure, end quote, David. Steve, while I'm finishing this up, will you look to see, I thought the Amityville case, what's his name, was the first one to do the Devil Made Me Do It thing at trial. Can you look that up for me? Because this happened in 81. The Glaxell family, along with the Warrens, then proceeded to have multiple priests petition the church to have a formal exorcism performed on David. The process continued for several days, concluding when, according to those present, a demon fled the child's body and took up residence with Arne. Several months later, Arne killed his landlord during a heated conversation, and his defense lawyer argued in court that he was possessed. But the judge ruled that such a defense could never be proven and was therefore infeasible in a court of law. Arne was subsequently convicted, though he only served 5 years of a 10 to 20-year sentence. The trial attracted media attention from around the world and has obtained a level of notoriety due to numerous depictions of the events in literature and television. The trial was later adapted into a film adaptation titled The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. There is so much more to this, guys, and I'll probably do a deep dive, but probably not until around Halloween time, when I start going into some horror stuff and possessions and all that stuff. So look for a deep dive on the trial or the murder, the Arne Johnson murder, whatever I'm going to call it. But yeah, it freaked me out. All the little details that aren't here that would go in there are like the creepiest, like what the visions of the old man looked like, what the old man was saying, all those little details. This is just an overview. It terrified me, absolutely terrified me.
Okay, I sent you some stuff there. It's in your email and in Skype, and I can send it to your phone if you need.
Well, no, I was just asking you. Like,
oh, you want me to read? Okay, when you said look it up, I thought you meant for you. Well, let me see what I found here. The Devil Made Me Do It. Let's see. There's several listed in here. Actually, the first time that defense was tried, 1638, the Massachusetts Bay Colony hanged Dorothy Talby for murdering her 3-year-old daughter. She claimed it was done at the devil's direction and tried to use that as her defense. The insanity defense did not come into being until more than 200 years later in 1843 in the British murder case of Daniel M. Naughton, who was found not guilty by reason of insanity. But that one doesn't really count because even though he sort of hinted that demons made him do it, that wasn't what they used. But the big one, November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. Shot and killed his mother, father, and 4 siblings while they slept in the family home. And during the trial, DeFeo claimed that although he murdered his family, he wasn't alone that night. As part of his insanity defense, he claimed that he had heard voices telling him to kill and that something outside of his control made him do it. He also stated that a figure with black hands handed him a rifle and followed him throughout the house as he killed his family. So that's, again, the critics believe that was just to shore up a insanity plea, but I don't know. There's, with all that's gone on at that house and then some of the pictures that have been captured there, the Warrens famously investigated that one, and there may have been something to that. The strangest aspect of it to me has always been that nobody woke up and got out of bed. They were all found face down and had been killed, assumably, in their sleep. And you'd think, at least among the kids, now I think one of his brothers had a football injury and couldn't get around. But the other brother, the smaller one, he was capable of getting up and making a run for it, as was the older sister. Now, there's been a theory that I've read where some people claim that his sister helped him murder. They murdered the parents first, and then the boys, and then he turned the gun on her in what was supposed to be.
I heard of that too. I heard they were having an incestuous relationship.
It was supposed to be a murder-suicide thing where they were going to murder the entire family. Then he was going to shoot her and then shoot himself, and he chickened out. So now later on, you had other people use that. Son of Sam killings, of course, the demonic dog.
He's a Christian now.
Yeah, I've seen some really nice interviews with him since, and I think he's legitimate. But he was into some dark stuff. There was.
I think he was mentally ill. Not to cut you off, but did you know there's like alternate things to the Son of Sam that he was actually involved? And I believe this totally. And it's another thing I'll have to talk about, maybe next week or something when I want to be prepared when I go into this because it's pretty awesome. David Berkowitz alleged that he, and somehow it was backed up by some kind of evidence, but the police didn't know about it, but I'll get deeper into it. So this is a little vague, but David Berkowitz was somehow connected to some kind of cult who would go out and commit shootings and kill people, and he was kind of lured because of his low intelligence into doing these killings by the master of this kind of cult that he was in. They would wear robes and hoods, and he was brought into it by a friend, and this is where all of this started coming into his mind. They told him to say he was possessed. They told him to say that about the dog. He later came out with this after he became a Christian and just started saying, like, they were involved in another very famous murder during the Satanic Panic, kind of right before that started, what kind of set it all off, of the murder of some lady. I have to get the details, guys, but it's really, really interesting because David Berkowitz, I believe wholeheartedly that he was in fact the scapegoat and the fall guy
Yeah,
for a large devil
absolutely. There
worshipping
was a
cult.
big cult. I think they're supposed to be out on Long Island or somewhere that participated in that Westchester County somewhere. There's a really good book. I've got it. I'll loan it to you. It's called The Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry. He ties all that in together with Berkowitz, the Satanic Cult, and they actually had ties to Hollywood, to the studios, and to Charles Manson. It's a fascinating tale, but it ties everything up really neat and puts a bow on it. And it's one of the best books I've ever read on it. But yeah, basically, he was told that he was going to take the fall for it, and that his landlord or maybe his neighbors had heard people in his apartment like the night before they caught him, and they claimed that all that writing and stuff on the walls, the crazy writing and stuff that wasn't there just a few days prior to him getting caught. So
They would hear chanting a lot coming, and like I said, David Berkowitz was a little bit mentally slow. He had low intelligence, so he was easily drawn into this. And they told him, eventually, when you get caught, don't tell about us. Just take full credit. You're going to be famous. And he did. And when it came back, maybe 10, maybe 20
mm,
years ago, even, that they went to him and said, what about this murder? And he actually confessed and told the whole story about how this murder was committed. It fit all of the evidence, but for some reason he was
yeah.
it was like never mentioned again.
Well, yeah.
So
Apparently, when they first arrested him, he quietly told some of the people investigating the case that I can tell you a lot more, but you have to get me out of New York. He was, afraid for his life. He knew that had been coerced into believing anyway that this cult was far-reaching, even into prison, and could take him out there. And he did get his throat cut, but he survived that. He was just he was so unassuming and everything. The guards even said that when he had been attacked, he walked up and just very calmly said, "Excuse me, but I've been hurt," and his throat was sliced open. So it was,
he's simple, and I don't want to say innocent. I'm not saying David Berkowitz is innocent, but simple people, I tend to think, should be a little more considered a little more innocent than they are in our justice system in America. I mean, knowing that knowing what being executed means is the only criteria for being fit to stand trial. And I know I say that a lot, and I'm so on that because that documentary, Crazy Not Insane, I don't know what it's on. I don't know if it's on Netflix or Prime. It could be on HBO Max. Look it up. It's called Crazy, Not Insane, and it's this psychologist that worked with serial killers and all kinds of killers and people with mental illness and testified in like thousands of court cases. And she's going through all of her work to make this book. And as she's going through her work, she's remembering case studies. She's interviewing some old clients. And she talks about how terrible our justice system is in this country to people who maybe aren't the smartest. I don't believe in the death penalty at all. I'm a Christian. I can't. But I understand why victims would want the death penalty. But for me,
well, and a lot of people, I think death is too good for them. Let them suffer.
And that's what I think too. Like, let them. I don't know. And then people say, well, they're spending money on them. It's like, it's always going to be something for one side or the other. For me personally, I'm not comfortable with the death penalty because our justice system, one of the main reasons besides being a Christian, is that our justice system, in my opinion, is so incredibly broken. I can't even imagine how many innocent people get killed by the government, by the state or whatever, by the death penalty each and every year. And it's really sad. And then it comes out 20 years later that, someone lied in court, someone was paid off, someone was framed by the police, someone was just flat out innocent. Yeah. The police knew it. What's his name? Rodney Reed?
I think so. That sounds right.
He was on death row for, he's still on death row because he was seeing the girlfriend of an abusive cop, and the cop's the one that found her, and they found beer cans with the cop and his partner's DNA on them right at the scene. How did he find her dead body? But she had Rodney's DNA in her because they were having an affair, and it got pinned on him because he was an African-American man. That's a really sad case. The reason I won't cover that case is because there's too much about race and politics, and I don't want that on my channel. But if you deep dive into that case, it's fascinating, and plenty of other YouTubers, true crime YouTubers, have covered it and given their lengthy opinions on it.
David Stewart says he's far too pretty for prison.
Hi, Steve Terry. I feel the same way, baby boy. My spelling going back to ghost mode dragons. Yeah, I have a hard time. It's funny because when I'm typing in the chat, I have a hard time with like spelling and grammar, but when I'm writing for the book, I can go, 2,500 words without making a single mistake. It's so weird, and I do it all on my laptop. So we're getting ready to finish up for the night, guys. I want to finish the script for the Alien Hybrid program so I can film it as soon as possible and get it out. April Arrington, Caleb Smith's mother, and I are reviewing the most recent script. I still was a little unclear about a couple things, so she informed me, and there were a few things she wanted me to add into it. So we're working on that, but she will be our guest on Fireside Chat from either 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday night. As usual, it's starting at the same time. And we're going to get to know Caleb, and we're going to get to know the real story, the truth about what happened. Like I always say, a mother should not have to investigate the death of her child, and that's all April has been doing. And it's just horrific what's been going on with that case, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She said she feels like a huge weight has been lifted off her back, and that she can breathe a little better knowing that people are interested and people aren't just turning away from Caleb and pretending that he didn't exist, that there are people that do care. Because one of the police officers said to Caleb's uncle when he was missing and the police weren't looking for him, the police said something to the effect, I can't quote it, but it was something to the effect of, if I went out and looked for every mentally ill, druggy junkie that was reported missing, I'd never be able to do anything else. About Caleb to his uncle.
No, that's just,
so that was the attitude
that's
of the
just
police.
uncalled for. That's anybody, whatever they are. They're somebody's father, they're somebody's son, they're somebody's brother, they're somebody's child,
And Caleb was a good kid. He had a little bit of mental illness. I still don't even know what was mentally wrong with him. And he was doing some drugs. He was 21 years old. He wasn't married. He had no kids. How many of us, experimented, or I didn't experiment with hard stuff. It was a car accident that led me into starting on a completely different drug when I was 30 years old. I didn't experiment, but a lot of people do experiment, and they are able to grow and learn from their mistakes. And his mother also has some factual major connections between him and Keeslyn Roberts, which is amazing. I just found out some of this today, which I'm sure she sent it to me, but there's so much information, it just slipped past me. I can't even wait to drop this bombshell.
And the amazing thing to me, the video that we did on missing persons and mysteries, it had information from quote unquote reliable sources, CNN, Fox News, the big major media. Every single one of them got it wrong.
I know, I'm the one who did the script.
But it's amazing when that even the big guys missed it on this one. So I'm anxious, especially for her to come on and to clear the air and to point out the inaccuracies that were reported, not only in our video, but with the major media outlets, because that's our sources.
Right, and that's the problem. We're trying to get her a private investigator, but that's going to come with money from the podcast. We might already have one. And I want to say, before I forget, totally off topic, Shane Taylor, I don't know your YouTube name, if it's Shane Taylor or something else. I want to thank you. I received the package today. I appreciate you, and I figured I'd shout you out whether you're here or not. Sorry, guys, but he sent me some cool stuff, and I just wanted to say thanks while I'm remembering. So thank you, Shane Taylor. All right, guys, 8:55. I'm going to call it a couple minutes early because I'm actually not feeling so well. I chugged another one of those frozen caramels from Dunkin' Donuts, and I think I drank it way too quick. I ended up with a brain freeze, and now I feel nauseous. So, yeah. Coffee at nighttime. Yay! I love you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for coming. Again, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please go and hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. YouTube does not like to recommend true crime or paranormal videos for the most part. Also, make sure you're still subscribed to my channel if you think you already are, because I was unsubscribed to Missing Persons and Mysteries and 13 Past Midnight like 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't the first time. Steve was unsubscribed to Missing Persons and Mysteries a few times. So if you're already subscribed, just make sure you are. Your notification bell is turned on to all. And if you're not, I'm at like 893 now, guys. So I'm literally
Let's
in the
at
home
least
stretch.
get her over
So
900
my
and
videos.
closer to 1,000. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe to Gemma. Gemma, thanks for having me on with you. Did this for National Paranormal Day. We didn't even know that it was National Paranormal Day until just a couple of days ago. And I said, we should do something. And this is what we did. So hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, Gemma, thanks for having me on. And look forward to Campfire Stories this Friday. And then Fireside Chat on Sunday. Thanks for letting me sit in here and engineer everything. Hope I put it together nice for you. I'm starting to play around with this software some more now that I'm comfortable going on camera. And it's amazing what all it can do. I can do all kinds of neat stuff. I can put my book in there. And I also want to thank everybody that's bought my book, keeping it at #1. It's a #1 new release on Amazon, and it went to #1 in the camping and travel category. And also the pre-release for the second volume, it's already charting, and I've just barely started writing it. It'll be out, I think August 17th is the day it hits shelves. Watch for Gemma's book. That's coming out soon, probably right around the same time. And Gemma, congratulations on your writing contract. That is just amazing. And it
Thank you, everybody.
makes me happy to be able to mentor you a little bit and to get you on the path to where you should have been going all along.
Thank you, darling. Everyone, thank you so much for your support. And again, every time you subscribe to my channel, a black-eyed kid gets his home. So if you didn't hit the like button, please do that as well. And share the love, share my videos. You guys are saying how much you like my new videos. I'd really appreciate if you can share them. Maybe someone who's not subscribed will be interested. I really want to get to that 1,000. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it'll be something. It's a goal I've been working towards, and I'd like to achieve it. I love you guys. You're the best, seriously. Pam Smith, thank you so much for that comment. It really touched my heart. Shane Taylor, thank you so much for the package. I'll let you know what's up with that. And I know I'm making it sound like creepy. It's just, yeah. Okay. So thank you. And I love you guys so much, and good night. I'm not feeling good at all. I feel like I'm going to get sick. So
if you do it on camera. Aim for the camera. I'm just kidding. All right. We're out of here. I'll go ahead and cut the cameras there just in case. But again, thank you all for listening, for watching, for showing up. I've got some new videos coming out this week on missing persons and mysteries. Those will be up before you know it, so keep an eye out. And again, see everybody,
Jackie,
see some of you here at midnight for, Jackie says instead of stemma,
didn't I say
Jeeves? Yeah, we said that. We were messing around. I get a pipe and you'll get an ivory cigarette holder.
Only there's, oh yeah.
If I can wear an ascot and a smoking jacket, I'm in.
Hint juice. All right, good night, guys.
Everybody.
Love you.
That's going to do it for us. Love each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in. And like I said,
oh, wait
I'll see
a minute.
most of you at midnight. Yep.
I did false advertising. I forgot. On missing persons and mysteries. If you subscribe to my channel, a black-eyed kid finds his forever home. But on this channel, a shadow person finds its forever home in Steve's house.
Okay. Well, I've got one. There's always room for more. They don't take up much room. They don't eat a lot, and they're quiet. So.
Night, guys. Love you.
Night, everybody. And then I'm going to play us out on the Moog synthesizer. Yeah, that's me playing. This is pre-recorded, but it is what it is. Enjoy.